So I'm not having any success getting our video or our live stream to go. If anybody is out there, if they will show me by doing a full view or a thumbs up or anything so I can see if this will work. And I hope to have this fixed by the next Friday that I do this. Anybody out there? I know it takes a second for people to go ahead and click in, and I know there are some people out there on Facebook. Okay, so I canceled the last live video and then stopped it, and they actually could hear me. So I don't know. Let's see here. Okay. No viewers. I think a pre-recorded thing might be better next time, but I really wanted to have some interaction if anybody had any questions, but this may not be working. I have a viewer. Okay, so I am working. So I'm not completely talking to myself, which is fantastic. Okay, I don't know whoever joined up. Oh, Alina. Okay, so I'm back on. Can you hear me? Which is really, this whole thing is really funny because everything is being recorded. So if I save this video, I can actually watch myself act like a complete baffling buffoon later. And if I hope that it was, apparently wasn't clear too. If I had anybody come to my office to do this, I'm going to be doing the live videos on Fridays. And I'm trying to figure out a best time to do these. So 10 or 11, not really sure. But if somebody could, can you guys hear me okay now? Just want to make sure. I was having some mic issues. Am I just mouthing? All right, well, I'll go ahead and begin. So I have people, my mic should be working. Again, my name is Sarah Solis, and I'm a realtor with Spears & Co. here in Rockport. And I wanted to do a little Q&A. Okay, thank you. You can hear me. A little bit of a few questions and answers, just getting the house ready for springtime. Our market is going to start really warming up with our beautiful weather that we have here. And a lot of these questions are just general questions that really apply to anybody, really no matter where you are. So, so yes, I do have just a couple pointers. A lot of it is kind of, some people would say, oh, I already knew that, but you know, getting your house ready can be really intimidating. Making the decision to even put your house on the market is a big step. And I know we've talked our last session about, you know, finding the realtor for you. And you know, you can usually do that well before you actually list your house. Sometimes it's for the moment, but sometimes it's, you know, you have some time. So when you do have a little time, it's really a good idea to go ahead and contact your realtor and let them know that you are planning on putting your house on the market. If you can set up a preliminary listing appointment, then have them go through the house with you and kind of make a list of some things that they have suggestions for you to get your house ready. But in lieu of doing that right now, so I'm just going to give you a couple things that I would suggest. So when everybody says first impressions are everything. It's kind of the same idea when you're listing your house. If you grab your notebook and you just walk to, you know, as somebody's going to come to your house. So pretend you're a buyer and you walk up and you see, what's the first thing you see? You see a planting bed, and it looks gorgeous. Everything's landscaped. It's got fresh mulch, and your porch is clean, and all your windows are clean, and all your light bulbs work, and everything works. You know, you're in a good state. Okay, but is that really the case for everybody? No, not usually, especially in the spring. It's been dormant, it's cold, it's windy, it's December. We don't like to go outside and do things, and everything kind of gets dirty, and especially our area is sandy. So this is a good time. Get your notebook and walk out. Say, okay, I need to do some mulch. Some of the stuff froze during the winter or it's dead. Pull that out. That's the first thing people will see. Everything, first impressions, right? So kind of look at what your landscape looks like. Look at the outside of your house. And so you're going to use that as a buyer. Like pretend you're a buyer. Look, oh, that pointed out, note it. Maybe it doesn't have to be fixed or repaired, but that's the first thing you see. And you're going to use these notes later. You're going to go through your house. And if you have somebody that can be honest with you, a friend or family or whoever, a second set of eyes is always really good, because a lot of times when it's our home, we don't see things that other people see. They can point out things that you look at every day and you don't realize it may have a crack in it, or it's broken, or something, it just needs to be cleaned. And it's not a bad thing, it's just that's where we get used to seeing things. So take somebody that can be honest with you and maybe have them help you out. So go through each room of your house and make these notes. You're gonna have to create a budget, because getting your house on the market, sometimes it is gonna cost you. So in a personal experience that we had when I went to sell our house a few years ago, even with my experience, I still wanted to have, someone to come over and kind of help me out. We walked up to the house and there was a fascia board and it was kind of rotten, needed some issues. Of course, it's a 1918 house. So you think, yeah, everybody's going to expect some issues with that house. That's really not, you have to get out of that brain. Even if it's not a new house, you have to get out of the brain. Somebody's going to want it to be as good as it can be. So I said, does that need to be fixed? And she says, well, you're asking me about it. It was kind of like, duh. If you're asking me about it, most likely it needs to be addressed. And that kind of went on through the house. I mean, I haven't even had a screen that had been irritating me. And I said, is that a big deal? Like, I know better, but I'm asking her because I'm used to it. And she says, well, yeah, if you're asking me again, it's like, you're right. Like, that's crazy. And the whole point of what it was is that I took care of my house. I loved my house. We did the best we could. But that's what we felt that was kind of okay when you're having a buyer come in. You really want it to be first impression. You want it to look the best it possibly can be. And it really shows that what we call the pride of ownership. So moving in from pride of ownership into my next talking point is really getting your house, you have it cleaned, you have it repaired. But there's another big thing about it, is it's your stuff. People ask, should it be vacant? Or do I have to move to sell my house? Well, no, you do not have to move in every instance. A lot of people can't move before they sell their home. They have to stay in their home. But there are some good tips that you can get your house ready. So if you can't see your floor or your counters or your walls, it's probably time to do some decluttering. And it is springtime, so again, you can do your spring cleaning with your getting ready to put the house on the market. So every area can be different, and like I said, a lot of this stuff can be, it's general information for anybody who's getting their house ready. But our particular area, our days on market is around 140 days. So you really have to think, okay, my house is going to be on the market for probably about 4 months. So what can I live with? What do I have to have for those 4 months? And what can I live without for 4 months? And all of those items, if it's, if it's something to do with Thanksgiving, okay, and you're in February, most likely you can get all that and box it up out of your buffets and your cabinets and everything and put it away, label it, and put it in the garage. And I say, or a storage building, because if you can get a storage building or rent one, that would be fantastic. But if you can't, a lot of people don't have a garage, they can't find a storage building or afford one, pick a place in your house and start using that as your dedicated storage area for all of your belongings, because it's better that they're boxed up, organized, and clean, and your house is decluttered rather than the explosion of all your items. So do I say to pack it all up? No, of course not. But if you can declutter, fine. We can't all afford stagers and stuff like that, which we all wish we could. But another thing, it's definitely get the advice of your realtor. I mean, if they come in, some people's homes are staged beautifully and they just need a few little finishing touches. But again, that's not always the case. I have a lot of people that ask me, do I have to take all my personal belongings, down or whatever? Again, personal preference, but no, you have to live there. You want to see pictures of your family as you're living in your home for that time it's on the market. But it is probably a good idea to kind of slim it down. Keep up some stuff. I mean, people, they know you're living there. It's not you don't have to give a false sense that no one lives in the house. But if you have an entire wall full of family photos or hallways full of them, it might be time to take some of those and box them up. They're going to come back out, so you can put them away for a little while. So it's not the end of the world if you leave them out, but it is probably a little bit of a distraction if the walls are full of your personal photos. So first I have my list of items, and let's see here. One thing that's really funny too is the simplest thing I've noticed, there's two things actually that I have noticed when I show homes. First, light bulbs. When you're going to get ready to list your house, go buy some light bulbs. Go buy just a couple extra packs and keep them for a couple reasons. One, you don't want anybody walking in and all your light bulbs are out. That's kind of, it again, shows your pride of ownership. It's a little distracting. And secondly, if you get to that home inspection process, a lot of the home inspectors will actually just say that the fixture possibly didn't work, and it really could just be a light bulb. So it's better if you have all your light bulbs working. So that's one little thing. It's kind of funny. The second thing is the smoke detectors. So in the springtime, it's always a good idea to go ahead and check your smoke detectors, make sure the batteries are in and working, and then have a couple of those 9-volt batteries on hand, because I can tell you, showing those homes with your smoke detectors beeping, it's the simplest thing, but it's so funny because it can be really distracting, and you don't want anything to deter a buyer from paying attention to your home. So we've talked about getting a deep clean, and we've talked about decluttering your home. We've talked about repairs. Another thing you can do, which is always a simple kind of fix, and it's kind of fun, but you don't want to go crazy, is when you start looking at your walls, a lot of times, we live in our homes, they get dirty, colors go crazy. So over the years, we may have painted a wall. We had somebody paint a wall, what was it, eggplant purple once. Not probably a great selling color. So it's really kind of nice to neutralize those walls. Now, if you've had a professional come in and they've done a color palette and your house is staged perfectly to meet all of that, that's fine. But if you have leopard print on one wall and purple on another, and your colors are a little crazy, painting is a really inexpensive, easy solution to go ahead and get some of that remedied. It might be something you have to hire if you're a really good painter. Attempting it yourself is possible. But if you do it, make sure that you do have a second set of eyes on it when you're done, because there's nothing that will distract a buyer easier than a bad paint job. So just kind of keep an eye on that. So we've talked about cleaning, we've talked about decluttering, we've talked about repairing things, getting things in order. So I had somebody ask me before I started if you should vacate the house, make it vacant, or if it's okay to live there. And I want to touch on that before I get away with it. So the answer is no, you don't have to move out of your house. People understand that people have to live in their homes before they sell them. So, but keep in mind though, if you are, try to pack it up as much as you can to the extent that you can still live there. And that question was actually referring to a tiny house that a friend of mine is considering selling. So yeah, I would say, Christy, go ahead and kind of pack as much as you can, but just keep in mind that if somebody's looking for a tiny house, and this is kind of that specific, show them how you are able to live there and how you're able to accommodate that, because that's always going to be somebody's question of how livable is it, and how many people can you fit, and how comfortable are you. Definitely declutter, and always be prepped for the showings. So, and I know you have great kids, they could probably always help you with that. But as far as vacating, that would be up to you. And maximizing the space, yes. If you have anything additional that can be removed out, if you've added something that maybe made that space just a little too tight, maybe take some of that out. But as far as like the basic stuff, I would say that probably would be without seeing it, it could be a benefit just to show the sizes. Recently, I sold a house that was completely vacant, and my client started moving their furniture in this last Tuesday. She called me yesterday. She said, "Come over. I want you to see this house." And all of her furniture looked like dwarfed, because the house, she didn't ever really get a concept of how big it was. And so it kind of can work the other way around, but if you have some of those basic items in there, it probably will help you in the long run, so people can kind of gauge how big of items they're going to be able to accommodate. And that really does go for any size of house. Selling a house vacant is not always the easier route. So you don't always have to vacate it, but don't go to the thrift store and just fill it with a bunch of junky furniture either. So it's kind of a path you have to be careful with. So we talked about all of that. As far as getting the house ready, those are some of my tips for actually getting the house ready. Your real estate agent then would take over and make sure you have really good pictures. They're going to need to hire or either be or hire a very good real estate photography. There is somewhat of a trick to it. You want to make sure you have good wide angles, bright light, no washouts, and there's a lot of ins and outs. And once you get those photos, make sure you look at them and analyze them. And if you're not happy with them, say something. So that is a lot of my tips as far as getting all of your house ready. And there's of course a lot more to it. That can be a lot more to it. But remember, I think my takeaway from that would be, if you have to ask yourself if you should do it, the answer probably is yes. Make your budget and try to stick with it, and prioritize what you can do with that budget. And you'd be surprised. There's a lot you can do to your house that will make it look absolutely beautiful. And like I said, at the end, you might start questioning if you should even sell it, but make it the best you can, because you want people to see that you're proud of your house, because it will help sell it. So I'm going to talk about a couple numbers before I get away. Doing good on time. If anybody has any questions and you missed this, of course, this will be running. You can always contact me, message me if you have a question. It's no committal. I just like to, help out a little bit if you need some advice about getting the house ready or anything that pertaining to real estate. So I did a little research. If anybody knows me, I love research, and I love to look at numbers. And so I pulled some information in regards to this is, keep in mind, this is just pertaining to our Rockport area. Even though I do cover Corpus and Aransas, Ingleside, and all that stuff, I can't go over all of that area in one session. That would be a session in itself. So just kind of some interesting numbers that I wanted to share with you, and you guys can just keep this in mind. So I pulled numbers for sales. So these are these are for sales. So sales for these are last year's sold numbers, March to the end of May. This is for single family residences. So this does not include townhomes, mobile homes, land, or commercial. But from March to the end of May, there were 93 properties total sold in Rockport and Fulton combined. And what I find interesting are days on market times, but the actual overall average sales price. So you'll kind of see a pattern. It's really interesting. So 93 properties sold, let's just say the first half of the year, minus January, February, because those are just super slow months. So I'm basically talking about from now to the end of May. We're going to compare this year's numbers to last year's numbers, which we don't have this year's numbers yet. So I want to give these to you, and we'll touch back with this later. So 93 listings sold last year. The average selling price was $303,000, and the average days on market for that time of year was 130. And so we have a original sold price compared to the list price at 93%. So that means that what they listed it for and what they actually sold it for, it's 93% of that. So people with price reductions, okay? So then we move into our summer. So this is when you'd say, well, this is when the most houses, this is when the most houses sold in Rockport and Fulton. But it's not. And I'm going to show you some of the numbers that kind of, you'll see why. So you have to average that a property is listed, and then you have your average days on market, and usually the last 30 days of that, of the average days on market is when it's pending, because normal loans, I mean, unless you have a cash deal, which of course, but when you have the loans, you got to allot probably about 30 days on average for the loan process. So you have 111 listings sold during the summer, and I'm talking June 1st through August 31st of last year, 111 properties. Average selling price, $309,785, okay? The original sold to list price is at 91%, and the average days on market is 145. And that average days on market here actually stays pretty consistent throughout the entire year. What changes? Well, it's your sales prices. So we had 111 listings sold in the summer. So again, you think that was when the most properties sold of all year, because that's when we are so busy. Okay, we feel just like your head spins. We're so busy. But actually, you go into September to the end of the year, there's 139 listings sold. Okay, same. So you got June, July, and August, 3 months. You go September, October, November, December. But you got slow period, 139 listings. The average selling price during the summer, $309,000. During the winter, $279,000. So your average sales price has decreased. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a huge difference, because that's an average. So very, very, and what's happened is people that were listing, probably because the average days on market's the same. So people that were listing their homes at the end of the summer, their price reductions were higher. The average sold to list price, 93% in one column. There's a really weird discrepancy here. I'm going to actually double check this number. But what was happening is people were listing high in the summer and then way too high. And then by the time they were actually selling their house in the winter, they had reduced their house so many times that it's actually showing this crazy number of 800% difference. And that's because there's somebody in this number that had listed their house so high that when they brought it down, it really messed up our averages. And I'll have to pull that one out and eliminate that one, just because it is really throwing everything off. But the selling price is not going to change. The selling average, $279,000. So it shows you that, yes, in the summer you might have less sales, but you're going to fetch a better price. During the winter, it's definitely, you have a lot of sales, but you have probably reduced your house down from ultimately maybe even a too high of a price, and it's just a little bit slower. So we get a little bit more eager to negotiate on the price. So it's just kind of some things about timing. I just wanted to share that, you know, a lot of those properties that close during the summer are listed in the spring. Excuse me. I get so excited when I talk about numbers. So really it is all about numbers. Your realtor can always provide you what the averages are, what the current situation is. But again, our average days on market doesn't vary that much. I mean, it can, during the summer, it can fluctuate down a little bit lower, but we do stay at about an average of 140 days. So just keep that in mind when you're listing your property. And that is not always the case. If you price your property right, you market it, and you get it listed with the right company and agency, you have a better chance of getting it sold quicker. So it just depends on what your motivation is. So it's past time, but my whole first time again didn't go through very well. So I hope I answered some questions, and if not, just gave you a little bit of information. Hopefully these become productive little sessions. So if you have any thing you'd like to ask, share, or if you have an idea of a session that you would like me to cover, I would be more than happy to. And if you want any more statistics, just give me a call, and hopefully I can help you out. So I didn't have any other questions today. Again, I'm sorry, I was technically challenged again with all this microphone stuff. So maybe next time I'll do a little better. My phone number is 361-729-1144. I appreciate everybody joining in today. So hopefully I will see you next time. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.